Hello, amazing listeners. Steve and Daniel here. Welcome to another episode of Papasphere Dad Unplugged, the podcast where we break down the real, raw, and unfiltered truths about fatherhood, marriage, and personal growth. My goal is to help us all become better men, better spouses, and better parents by learning from our struggles and embracing the lessons life throws our way. In the last episode, we talked about the importance of saying sorry and taking accountability, but as important as it is to apologize, there's another side to that coin: forgiveness. You can say sorry a million times, but if the other person refuses to forgive, or maybe you're the one struggling to forgive certain people, then the relationship stays stuck in a cycle of pain, resentment, and emotional distance. Now, before we dive in, I want to say this. I know this episode may be difficult for some to hear, especially for the older parents, Gen X's and Boomers. I'm going to talk about things that might be uncomfortable, but my intention isn't to make anyone feel bad. It's to bring people together through honesty. And to do that, we have to face the ugly truths. But I encourage you to listen with an open heart, because forgiveness isn't about making someone else feel better. It's about you. Forgiveness is for you, not for them. The person who hurt you, they might be living their life without a care in the world, while you're sitting there hoping they'll finally understand how much they hurt you, but they may never get it. And waiting for that validation is only keeping you in pain. Holding on to resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. It doesn't make one damn bit of sense. And let me be clear, forgiveness does not mean saying what they did was okay. It means you're done letting it control you. Now, will you possibly lose that person forever? That connection? Maybe. Will they retaliate? If they're a narcissist? Of course. But this is about your peace, your mental health, your healing. Forgiveness can also strengthen relationships. When someone takes accountability, you truly forgive. The relationship can become stronger than before. And letting go of grudges prevents small issues from snowballing into major problems. Let's take this back to God's word. Colossians chapter 3, verse 13 says, "Bear with each other and forgive one another. If any of you has a grievance against someone, forgive as the Lord forgave you." All of us are always asking God for forgiveness. But when it comes time for us to extend that same grace to others, we struggle. I'm going to be real honest with you. Forgiveness has never come easy for me. I used to think that I let things go, but in reality, I held on to grudges without even realizing it. And when certain people did certain things over and over and over, those old wounds kept rushing back. I want to now share some of my personal struggles with you. An oversimplification of my deep wounds to show you, even though I had a not so good past, I still chose to forgive so that I can finally be at peace. I grew up feeling like an outsider in my own family. There were cliques within my family, and if you didn't think the way they did, you were out. I was always questioning things, always trying to learn. But instead of curiosity being encouraged, it made me a target. Let me give you an example. Something simple. Maybe a little silly to most of you. But at that time, it didn't feel so silly. One day, I explained to my family about pouring soda, something I learned in a documentary. When you pour soda quickly and allow carbonation to fizz out of the glass, you release much of the excess carbon dioxide before drinking it. You know, the gas that's responsible for the fizz. But if you pour slowly, like most bartenders do, they tilt the glass and the carbonation remains trapped in the soda when it's consumed, that gas can build up in your stomach as it tries to escape. This can lead to bloating, discomfort, or excess burping as your stomach works to expel that trapped gas. By letting the carbonation escape in the glass during pouring, like when you're pouring it a little fast and you have to wait for the fizz to go down to keep pouring, you're reducing the amount of gas you're ingesting, making it gentler on your stomach. So in that sense, it's a small step that can make sipping soda a little more stomach friendly. First thing they said, "Where the F did you hear that?" I was mocked for it. They dismissed it, laughed at me, and made me feel small. But right at that moment, I chose to let it go, let it be, and laugh it off. Because in reality, it is something really stupid to be mad at. Forgiveness. Here's another not so serious one. Numbers. You go to school to learn, right? Well, I was in advanced classes, and one day I had learned how to say numbers correctly, like saying 140. The proper way to say it, 140, not 140. We've all always said it that way. I explained that in formal English grammar, The word and is reserved for separating whole numbers from fractions and decimals. So in 140, adding and, as in 140, that's incorrect in the context of proper mathematical or numerical language, because and implies a separation, like 100 and something else. So 140 is the accurate way to write it and say the number. What's funny is that everyone is writing it correctly when they wrote checks back then, but they were still saying it wrong. But people often add and out of habit, conversational patterns, or regional influences. It can sound natural in casual speech, where grammatical precision isn't always priority. So basically the reason why people say wrong is because everyone does it this way. So who cares? The only time that you add and is for decimals and coins, like 140.75. It's proper to say 140 and 75 hundredths. And for money, you would say $140.75. Learning this new thing at school, I excitedly shared this new knowledge with my parents, and instead of engaging with me, I was told to shut the hell up because Big Brother was on TV. After that, I stopped sharing things I learned. I stopped talking about school. I shut down. Those are just two very small examples. Logic didn't win in my house. Expression wasn't welcome. And if I stepped out of line, there were consequences, physically and emotionally. And it wasn't like I was talking like a know-it-all and just randomly say stuff. I always kept it until the opportunity presented itself. Well, except like the numbers, because I was just excited for learning something new. Actually, I'm lying. When it comes to Disney stuff, I am that guy. Anyways, growing up, I wasn't just punished. I was broken down. If I made my parents feel stupid or proved them wrong, because my mouth got me in trouble a lot, the punishment were harsher. I would get jealous of other kids when their parents talked to them to find the root problem of why I said what I said or did what I did. But here I am. I'm cracking my neck now and mentally preparing to go into a one-sided boxing match. Because I was a big kid, been fat since I was in 5th grade, I looked someone way older than I was. You should see my middle school pictures. I look like a senior in high school. I was hairy. I had a mustache in 5th grade, not a light one that you could see. By 6th grade, it was thick, a thick mustache that I started shaving in 6th grade. So I literally would have my hands behind my back while my parents punched the hell out of me with their fists. God forbid I blocked with my hands because they didn't get my face. I know that for some of you, I would trigger that memory if I just said, move your hands. You know exactly what I'm talking about. I wasn't just hit with fists. I was hit with whatever was within reach. Brooms, mops, hangers, sandals, belts, pool table sticks. If it was nearby, it was used. It was a joke in the family when they saw a dented broomstick in the house. Now that I think about it, I should have put my signature every time I bent it. I learned early on that honesty got me in more trouble. So I became a good liar. Not because I wanted to be deceitful, but because the truth always made things worse. If I got the same punishment for lying when I was telling the truth, then I took my chances lying. The only time I really got caught is when I was just slipping and lazy and didn't plan it that well. My stepfather treated me differently from my siblings, and it was clear. I was punished more harshly, held to stricter standards, and constantly had to prove my worth in a household where I felt like an outsider. Like one of the things that he did that still kind of bothered me today is he would ground me and yell at me for not facing all the sodas the same way. That was just one of many strict rules I had to follow, but no one else did. I remember times when my feelings were dismissed, my excitement shut down, and my voice silenced. My mother, as much as she loved me, was overwhelmed, tired, and often distant. I needed her presence, but television shows and exhaustion took priority. I learned to be alone in a crowded house. And while I've worked on forgiving, the scars remain. It did shape me to who I am today, but it also left wounds that took years to heal. Despite all this, I wasn't a bad kid. I didn't do drugs. I wasn't sneaking alcohol to school. I wasn't out vandalizing or committing crimes. I wasn't part of a gang. I wasn't skipping school. My biggest offense was talking too much and questioning things that didn't make sense to me. No one did a good job explaining it to me. Right now, I'm a person that if I believe in one thing, I will listen if you use logic in your argument. But if you start talking to me or yelling at me or arguing with emotions, I'm not going to hear it. But because I was treated like a problem child, I eventually started acting like one. In 6th and 7th grade, I deliberately did poorly in school. Not because I wasn't capable, but because I wanted revenge. My parents still think that I was just going through puberty. But I figured, hey, if I was going to be punished like a troubled kid, I might as well give them a reason. I failed tests on purpose, slacked on assignments, and did just enough to avoid being held back. I wanted to strip away the one thing my parents could brag about, my intelligence. But by the end of 7th grade, a teacher pulled me aside. She saw right through what I was doing and told me something that stuck. She said, "You think you're hurting them, but you're only hurting yourself." That hit me hard. I realized that by intentionally sabotaging myself, I wasn't making my parents suffer. I was just making my future harder. So I switched gears. I started trying again, pushing myself academically and proving, not to my parents, but to myself, that I was more than the way I was treated. And it was hard because what they did do is that they did buy all the stuff that we needed to buy. They did work really hard. They put a roof over our heads, food on the table, clothes on our backs. They took us out to eat when they had the money. We didn't go on to these fancy vacations, but they did make sure to visit Orlando all the time. So to me, I had to just super let it go because they did all that until I learned that is just the status of a child. That's what they were supposed to do as a parent. That's their job. But I saw it as a transaction. They did all that, so I had to shut up and keep my emotions to myself. What made it even harder was that my siblings, due to the significant age difference, never really saw what was happening. They defend my parents because the parents that they had were not the same parents I had. Same people, but different parenting styles. By the time they were teenage years, my parents had changed, softened up, and learned from their experiences. But that didn't change what I went through. And that's something they'll never fully understand. To them, I must look like I'm holding on to something that never existed, but to me, the pain was real, and so was the experience. But after truly forgiving my parents, things have changed. My relationship with my mom has improved significantly. We talk often, and she listens in a way she never did before. My stepfather, though still reserved, treats me with more respect, especially back in 2007, 2008, where I started working for him. I gained a lot of respect for him then because he saw my work ethics. But there are no more battles. No more trying to prove myself. I see the effort on their part, and I appreciate it. Forgiveness didn't erase the past, but it allowed us to move forward, to build a new foundation, and to heal in a way that makes space for love and understanding. My relationship with my brother is still a work in progress. We connect over shared interests like video games and funny videos, but there are times when tensions resurface. I've learned to pick my battles. And while we don't always see eye to eye, I know that deep down we both want to have a better relationship. With my sister, things are also complicated. We were close for a time, but miscommunication and unspoken frustrations have created distance. But I still love her like crazy, and I know she loves me and my kids and my wife. But forgiveness is a process, and healing doesn't just happen overnight. What I do know is that I've let go of the resentment. I chose to move forward, and I prayed that with time, our relationships will continue to strengthen. Did this create a distance on my part? Absolutely. And being a military family doesn't help at all either. But I had to step back, not out of resentment, but as a way to protect my peace and maintain my happiness. Keeping my distance was part of the process of forgiveness. It allowed me to let go without continuously reopening old wounds. I only saw them twice last year. While things remain as they are now, I hold on to hope that in time they will come to understand the value of respect, accountability, and the power of true forgiveness. There's more to my story, more moments, more pain, and more lessons that have shaped me into the man that I am today. But those stories will come in time, as I continue to share in the future episodes. I hope my transparency helps someone out there who might be struggling with similar pain. You're not alone. If anything I say resonates with you, just know that healing is possible, even when it feels impossible. And it starts with forgiveness. First forgiving them, then forgiving yourself. So why do people struggle to forgive? Well, holding on to pain for some feels like they are in control. The longer they hold that grudge, the more they are in control. They think that if they forgive, it's just going to happen all over again. Some are waiting for an apology that may never come. If you're waiting for an apology, you have to come to the understanding that some people just can't say sorry. And we all have to accept that. Some people confuse forgiveness with weakness, but forgiving someone doesn't mean you're a pushover. It means that you're strong enough to let it go. So how do you forgive someone? Well, here's my 5-step guide, something simple to get started, but it's way more complicated than I am making it seem. First step is acknowledge your pain. Talk it out with someone that you trust. Anybody that you trust. Step 2, decide to let it go. Holding on to resentment only hurts you. This is your way to free yourself from that darkness, that grudge, that pain. 3, shift your perspective. Understand that many people hurt others out of their own pain. So put yourself in their shoes. And just maybe they're going through some type of hell that you could never imagine. 4, set boundaries. This one's pretty hard. Sometimes you have to stop talking to them for a while. But forgiveness doesn't mean letting toxic people have access to your life. If you have to cut them off and stop going home for the holidays, then so be it. 5, pray for strength. Ask God to help you let go, even when it feels impossible. Stephen, is there such thing as unforgivable? Well, some betrayals, like abuse or deep trauma, feel impossible to forgive. But remember, forgiveness does not mean reconciliation. You can forgive someone without ever speaking to them. Forgiveness is about you, not them. And Luke chapter 23, verse 34 says, Jesus forgave those who crucified him. He said, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. If he could forgive the people that were killing him, maybe we could take steps to letting go too. Forgiving people and being at peace is helping me be a better father because those 3 little dudes are still watching. I say little, but my oldest one is about to turn 13. I hope one day my kids look back and realize how hard I tried. That when I was busy, I found the time. When I was exhausted, I found the energy. When I lost my patience, I apologized. When it was time to forgive, I forgave. When they needed me, I was there. I loved them hard every single day. I wasn't perfect, but I gave it my all so they can be better men than I am. You need to learn how to forgive. Everyone, not just your parents. If people make hollow promises, forgive them. If they keep threatening to leave, forgive them and let them. If they keep using offensive words or statements towards you, forgive them. If they criticize your appearance, forgive them. If a parent complains about how they raised you, forgive them. When you see all the people who should love your children put little to no effort into being part of their lives, forgive them. If you have certain people in your family that view you as the problem because you're setting boundaries and not tolerating their toxic behavior to have power over your life, so now you're the difficult one, forgive them because that is called growth. If they gaslit you, forgive them. If they guilt trip you, forgive them. If your feelings were neglected, forgive them. If they shamed or punished you for emotional expression, forgive them. If they broke your trust, forgive them. If they cheated on you, forgive them. They lied, forgive them. They spread gossip or rumors, forgive them. They stole from you, forgive them. They publicly humiliated you, forgive them. Unfair treatment, showed favoritism, ignored boundaries or personal space, showed lack of support, took credit for your work, made hurtful jokes or comments about you, damaged your reputation, showed lack of empathy or understanding, or even betrayed a shared secret, forgive them. Forgiveness is one of the hardest things we could do, but it's also one of the most freeing. And it's not about saying what they did was okay. It's about choosing peace over pain. It's not for them. Like I said, it's for you. Sometimes no matter how much we wish for others to change or live harmoniously with us, the reality is that change has to come from within. They must be willing to take that step themselves. Trying to force change or hold on to expectations can only lead to frustration and heartache. The key to learning to accept them as they are, understanding their choices and behavior are beyond your control. Forgiveness, in this sense, becomes a way to release yourself from the weight of the conflict and disappointment. By forgiving and letting them be, you reclaim your peace and move forward without carrying the burden of unresolved emotions. It's not about condoning their actions, but about choosing your own well-being over the need to fix or change someone else. Thank you for listening to Papasphere. Dad Unplugged. If this episode helped you, share it with someone who might need it. And remember, letting go isn't easy, but it's the first step toward real peace. And I want to hear from you. If you have a question or a topic you'd like me to cover in a future episode, send it my way. In future episodes, I'll be diving deeper into my upbringing, my experiences, and what I've learned along the way. So let's grow together. And know this, I love you, I appreciate you, and always remember to smile.